Sahanavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vedvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshuram Vidikam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurudeva Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Stavaram Jamganam Vyatam Yatkinchin Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapiyat Sarvam Vailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Pathaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayana Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Puranamudina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitanavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambartvananusandratami Bhagavad-gite Bhagavad-veshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutara Sumanti Divya Savai Vede Sangha Padarkamo Vanishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanarasti Gatargatena Manasa Pashyanti Yogino Yashantanna Vidusura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. We are on 27, right? 27. Okay, so we've seen that from verse number 12, the Lord Krishna is answering Arjuna's concern, and the two concerns we saw were that Arjuna himself is so confused, he is so in such an emotional state that he is overwhelmed by dejection and pity, and therefore needs to be addressed towards that issue. And secondly, in terms of action and choice, he is completely confused, that he doesn't know what he has to do. So from verse number 12 onwards, Lord Krishna has been telling him the basis on which he should not grieve. Okay? And the basis on which should not be grieved goes to the fundamental problem of human condition and human existence, which is really self-knowledge. And because Arjuna does not have that self-knowledge, he is in this condition of grieving, he is in this condition of completely emotional imbalance. Okay? And when Lord Krishna explains to him that, the self-knowledge which he requires is really something which is essential in order for him to get rid of this problem of grieving once and for all. He explains to him what is the essence of the self, right? And in many ways he describes what is the essence of the self, which is the everlasting, unchanging, ultimate reality. And if one understands that that is the ultimate reality, then there is no need to grieve. And in the last few stanzas we have seen that again and again he is repeating why he should not grieve. Okay? And the grief which is arising, as we saw, is due to Arjuna's attachment and Arjuna's perceptions and his beliefs about what is this phenomenal reality. Okay? And we saw that this is something which is common to the human condition, that each one of us is affected in this way, is that we take this world to be real, number one, and having taken this world to be real, we relate to this world in a certain way, which is that we begin to have this relationship of attachment, we begin to have this relationship of attachment which is based on our reflection of our vasanas in relation to this world, and that creates a whole kind of condition in which we are constantly moving back and forth between attachment and expectation and desire and fulfillment of desire and the reactions which arise from all these things which are going on, and this we call the phenomena of life. And because Arjuna is affected by this in the middle of the battlefield, that is his most critical point. He has reached there, and therefore it is important for us to understand really what is this Arjuna condition and how does it relate to each one of us. As you remember, we said that Arjuna is really the representative of humanity, and therefore Lord Krishna is talking about something which goes beyond our personal differences. He goes to the root of the problem of human existence, which is what we got to understand. And once having understood that, it means that all these things, reactions of grief, etc., which are arising, will not be there if we truly understand what is the ultimate reality and how does it then relate to our phenomenal reality and identity. So, in 26, in verse number 26, he was saying, even if you think that one is constantly being born and dying, then you can see that this person has come into existence. He's born, he's grown up, he's developing, and is maturing, etc., and then he dies. So, knowing this reality, coming down to the basic level of understanding, even on the basis of phenomenal reality. So somebody is being born and somebody is dying, and we see that all the time, all around us, then if you understand that, then what is the need to grieve? Okay. And then in 27, again he is emphasizing the point that whatever is born has to die. Okay. So for certain is death for that which is born, and certain is birth for the dead, and therefore over the inevitable you should not grieve. Okay. Now this principle applies to everything. Right? Sometimes we think, I'm in this kind of situation, what should I do? Is there any possibility? What are the options available to me? And sometimes we don't realize that maybe there is nothing we can do. Right? There are things and situations and events and things in the world where we can do nothing. Like this example is giving here, is that yes, birth and death is happening all the time. Right? And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't say to yourself, okay, now, I'm going to prevent death in one way or the other, because that is not possible. Right? And therefore, if that is inevitable, then what should be our response in terms of that inevitability? And here he's kind of giving his practical advice that, if you think that something is not going to work, it is something which is unavoidable, then what should be your reaction? It should be that accept it. Do not grieve after it. you have to accept it in such a way that you understand that this is the phenomenal world and this is how it works and there's nothing you can do about it. So why grieve about it? Why worry about it? Right? So and it goes back to the what you call the serenity prayer. You remember the serenity prayer? It says, "Give me the ability and wisdom to know the difference between what can be changed and what cannot be changed." Okay. What can be changed means that if there is something which can be changed, give me the ability and wisdom to do that. And if there's something which cannot be changed, give me the ability and wisdom to actually cope with that and to accept it. Right? And we are confronted with many situations in life whereby we can't do anything. Right? This kind of helplessness in terms of a phenomenal world which has got its own kind of way of expressing and manifesting and working, then this phenomenal world, there are certain things which are actually not possible for us. And if that is the case, then what should be our reaction? And this is what Lord Krishna is reminding Arjuna, that if you see that this cycle of birth and death is there before you and you can see it and it is inevitable, then if these people are going to die and you know that they are going to die one way or the other, whether they are killed in battle or they are killed in other ways, then there is no need to grieve. Okay? But of course, the thing is that having even realized that yes, this is what is going to happen, we still grieve, isn't it? It's not that when somebody passes away and the nearer the person to us who passes away, the more grief we experience, right? And we know that this person is going to die one way or the other, just like we are going to disappear from this physical form one day or the other, and somehow we fail to accept it. We may understand it, but we fail to accept it. It means that there is something within us which is preventing us from actually accepting that reality. So here, what Lord Krishna is telling him is just accept that reality, because if you see this birth and death taking place, and it is like Gurudev is saying, that this is life. It is the very nature of life, whereby the stream of birth and death against the unavoidable, inevitable arrangement, no intelligent man should mourn and grieve. So again, it is a question of using one's intellect in the right way, with the right perception, with the right condition, and to be able to understand it and then to take it into account. One is able then to come into right relationship with that particular fact. And if that is done, and we go beyond this attachment which we feel for that which has been born, then this grief should not arise. So here he is saying, keep smiling. This is what he is saying, that the doctrine of life is on the whole a message of cheer and joy. So it's not that one says to oneself, oh my God, I can't do anything about it, and therefore I should get upset, I should grieve, I should mourn about it. There is no kind of a way in which one should become negative about the whole thing. And what Gurudev is saying here, Krishna's philosophy can be put into two words: keep smiling. Right? Keep smiling, even when you see that these things are not possible for us to change, and there is nothing I can do about this thing. Keep smiling. Okay? And this is the message he is giving to Arjuna. So then the next stanza, number 28, is also kind of related to this previous stanza, whereby he says, connecting this stanza with the following one, Shankara says, neither is it proper to grieve over beings which are mere combination of material causes and effects. So here he's taking it down to another different level of understanding. So let's chant that verse and then we'll talk about it a bit.
Avyaktaadini bhutani
Avyaktaani bhutani
vyaktamadhyani bharata
Vyaktamadhyani bharata
avyaktanidhananyeva
Avyaktanidhananyeva
tatra ka paridevana.
Tatra ka paridevana.
Which says beings are experienced to be unmanifest in their beginning, are seen to be manifest in their middle state, O Bharata, and are noticed to be unmanifest again in their end. What is there then to grieve about this? So here, what Gurudev is saying here is that from this stanza onwards, the whole problem of Arjuna from the standpoint of the man of the world is being expressed here. Okay? So the man of the world means what? That Arjuna is a practical man. He's a warrior. He's living in a pragmatic way in the world. So here he is presenting some pragmatic kind of arguments and understandings for Krishna. So far, you see, he's gone to right up to that whole high philosophy and metaphysics of saying that there is an ultimate reality, and that ultimate reality, if understood in the right way, then of course there is no need to grieve. Okay. But he knows that Arjuna will at once understand the practical point of view, the man of the world point of view, and therefore he is kind of bringing him down to this level of understanding. And we'll see that he even goes further when he addresses the second part of the problem. In the same vein, he continues to give him a kind of practical way of looking at this problem in which he finds himself. So here it is again the law of cause and effect, like Adi Shankaracharya says that, okay, you can see that, yes, there is birth and death which is taking place. And we can look at this from another kind of practical point of view, which is there is a law of cause and effect which is operating in this world. Okay? And this law of cause and effect is manifesting itself as things and objects and beings and situations and even events coming into being. They are unmanifest in the beginning, becoming manifest in the middle, and then becoming unmanifest again in the end. Right? So this is the cycle which is taking place. It is things and object will come into existence. It was not existing before, it comes into existence, and then it disappears out of existence. Okay? Now this is the cycle which is taking place, and if we see that, this is what is happening all around us. It is not something new. It is actually something which we are totally familiar with. But Lord Krishna is just highlighting this fact in saying that if we understand again that there is a law of cause and effect which is taking place, whereby there are causes which gives rise to an effect, and that effect is what is manifest. And that manifestation is actually picked up by our own senses and our own consciousness, and we begin to relate to that manifested object or situation according to how we place ourselves in terms of the vasanas and conditioning. Okay? So, for example, if something comes into existence, right? So, for example, if we say that yes, somebody was not there before, but a baby has now been born, something has come into existence, at once we develop a relationship with that which has come into existence, isn't it? It was not there before, but now it has come into existence due to some kind of causes which were there, which gave rise to this birth, and that birth having come into manifestation, we develop a certain relationship with that. Okay. So this is the law of cause and effect, that yes, there were causes which gave rise to the manifestation, and there are causes which keep on making this manifestation to continue, and there are causes which will make this manifestation to come to an end. And you remember we were talking about what is it which is making this life to actually come into existence. Right? And it relates to this cycle of birth and death. It relates to the idea that there are certain prarabdha karma which are manifesting themselves. Okay? That's why it is called the karana sharira. Okay? The karana sharira is the one which is actually the one which is the basis for the manifestation of this name and form, this life, the relationship with life. All these things are our prarabdha karma. The prarabdha karma is the cause of our coming into manifestation into this name and form. Okay. And the prarabdha karma and the vasanas together manifest themselves as this particular life which we are experiencing now. Okay. So there is a cause-effect relationship which is there in terms of not only manifesting this particular birth, but also in terms of continuation of this prarabdha karma. So the prarabdha karma begins to unfold itself in terms of various different situations, events arising, experiences which arise in this life, and as soon as the prarabdha karma comes to an end, which is now the cause which was actually making this manifestation to take place, has come to an end, then that manifestation also comes to an end. Right? In other words, very simply put, as soon as the prarabdha karma get exhausted and they come to an end, the life comes to an end as well. And therefore, what we see as a person who is living and experiencing life in this way also comes to an end, and this is what we call as death. So birth and death are the cycles. These are things which are inevitable because they are based on the law of causation. This is again the point which Lord Krishna is making to him. And he is telling him that yes, you are aware that the whole of this nature is based on cause and effect. It is within the realm of cause and effect. Okay? Space, time and causality is what is ruling this phenomenal world. And you as a practical man of the world know that this cause and effect relationship is there all over the place. This is the one which actually rules the and governs the manifested world. And even if you say that yes, it is unmanifest and then it goes into unmanifestation again, then even that is actually under the law of causation. And when it is actually disappearing, there is no need to grieve. Okay? Why should you grieve if you know that there is this law which is operating in this world? Then what is the need to actually grieve? And here is giving the example of the dream children. Okay? The dream children is really that yes, when we go to sleep, we enter the world of dreams. When we enter the world of dreams, a dream world is there which we experience as a first-hand world which looks to be absolutely real. The dream world was not there before. When we were in the waking state at this time, the dream world is not accessible to us, isn't it? But when we go to sleep at night, we enter the dream world, and in the dream world there are dream children, okay? Or whatever you call it. In the dream world there will be many objects and many people and many things which will be there, and they come into existence. They were not manifest there before, but in the dream world they become manifest as things and beings and objects in the world. And that dream world is created in the mind, through the mind, and using the elements of our daily experience and past conditioning. So that dream world comes into existence, and together with the dream world coming into existence comes all different kinds of objects which are there in the dream world. And we relate to that and experience that dream world just as we experience this world which is called the waking world. Okay. So in the dream we find ourselves actually living in a dream world. It may be a completely different dream world, but it manifests itself in that way in which it is based on the past experience and past conditioning. We find different kinds of people there, and we may even find that we have got some children there who don't exist in the waking world. And they come into existence and they manifest themselves in the dream world. And when we wake up, what happens? When we wake up and we come out of the dream world into the waking world, there is no more the dream world. There is no more the dream children, and therefore they disappear. Isn't it? And we experience this every night and every morning. We may remember some of the dreams, and sometimes we don't even remember the dreams. But when we do we start crying and say, oh my God, I lost my dream children. I lost my dream house, and I lost my dream car. I lost everything which was there in the dream world. We don't grieve. We don't grieve. Why? Why don't we grieve? It's because we know that this is the dream world which is not the real world. As far as we are concerned, the relative truth about these two different worlds, or even three different worlds, where we take into account even the deep sleep state. For us as this experiencing human beings, we take this waking world to be the reality, and we take the dream world to be the unreality. And therefore, whatever is happening in the dream world, we say, yeah, it is going to manifest and it is going to disappear. When I wake up, it's going to disappear. So why grieve about it? There's no need to grieve about it, isn't it? So in the same way, if we see that there is a higher reality which goes even beyond this waking world, and in the waking world, we see that this waking world manifests itself because we come into existence, and we go out of existence, and this world will no longer be there. So in the same way as we relate to the dream world and we do not grieve over it, in the same way, if we understand that there is another higher reality which goes beyond the waking world, then why grieve about what is happening in the waking world? Because it will come into existence, it will manifest itself, it will play its own drama which is there, and that drama will come to an end. So why grieve over it? Keep smiling, enjoy. That's what the message is. Enjoy the drama. Enjoy just like we enjoy the dream. Sometimes we have nice dreams, isn't it? And we enjoy the dream, and in the morning we say, yeah, but I enjoyed the dream. It was good, but it comes to an end. So just like that, if we say that things are unmanifest, they come into manifestation, and they disappear out of manifestation, then what is the need to grieve? So this is the relationship which Lord Krishna is making Arjuna to be aware and to be telling him that yes, these bodies have come into existence. They were unmanifest before. The bodies have come into manifestation, and these bodies are again going to be unmanifest. In the same way, even if you look at it in the phenomenal reality, in the phenomenal world, then again there is no need to grieve, because this is how things are. And if you accept things as they are, then there is no need to grieve. The problem is what? The problem is that we are unwilling to accept these things. And the unwillingness to accept these things is based on what? It's based on our attachments. Right? Yes, we know that, as I was saying, that we know that people are going to come into this and they're going to die, right? And this, we see it happening day in, day out, all the time. Even when you listen to the news and when you watch the TV and see what is going on, people are dying all the time. They're being born all the time. We know this for a fact. And yet, when it comes to our own kind of people dying, then what do we experience? We experience extreme grief, just like Arjuna is experiencing grief because he has projected this idea that these people are going to die. Why is that? It's because of the attachment. And this attachment to things which are temporary, things which are going to come into existence and disappear out of existence, means that that attachment is going to cause us grief. And this is based on the wrong knowledge. It is based on the wrong understanding. And this is the whole idea of Krishna, is to bring Arjuna to the right understanding, give him the self-knowledge which is going to get rid of this grief once and for all. Okay, so with this, then Lord Krishna goes on to the next verse, which is, and here the commentary of Shankaracharya says that the self just spoken of is very difficult to realize. Okay, the self which Lord Krishna has been talking about earlier on, and which is then saying that okay, if you actually go to the level of the ultimate reality, then even this particular phenomenal world which we are experiencing as real becomes like the dream world. But it is very difficult to realize that self which is the ultimate reality. And this self just spoken of is very difficult to realize. Why should I blame you alone while the cause, ignorance, is common to all? One may ask, how is that the self is so difficult to realize? Why is this self so difficult to realize is now what Lord Krishna is going to tell us. So we'll chant that verse.
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidенam
Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidенam
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah
Ascharyavat chainamanya shrunoti
Ascharyavat chainamanya shrunoti
Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschita
Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschita.
Okay, so here the meter of the verse actually changes, and when the meter changes, you know that there is something happening here, that there is a particular point of emphasis, right? So when the meter changes, the Lord Krishna is kind of waking Arjuna up and says, okay, now listen, here is something different, okay? And here is what is different, where he says, one sees this as a wonder, another speaks of this as a wonder, another hears of this as a wonder, and yet having heard, none understand this at all. Right? And this applies to us as well, is that we listen to it, we wonder about it, we think about it, and we try to reflect on this truth which is being mentioned by Lord Krishna, and all the scriptures and Shrutis mention this, the ultimate reality, the self, and yet having heard, none understand this at all. Okay. Now what is happening here? So if we see now, first of all, it means that it shows that this kind of realization of the self, in other words, the realization that I am Brahman, the direct experience of Brahman is very rare indeed, right? And later on he is going to say that out of 1,000 people, only one turns towards me, right? So we'll say many thousands of people are there in existence, but only a few people would actually relate to this kind of knowledge. They turn towards this knowledge. They turn towards this idea that there is a self. They turn towards Krishna means that it turns towards the higher reality. And out of those 1,000 people who turn towards that reality, only one actually reaches it. Okay. So what are the chances? Chances are 1 in a million. Okay. Out of 1,001, and out of those thousands who are actually trying to reach, only one will reach. So which means this, in other words, the 999,999 people will be so amazed by this thing, and they will try to understand and try to reflect on this and say, what is this, what is this? They will not understand it. It is only one person who reaches, who actually then truly knows what it is all about. Okay. For us, what is remaining? Right? We don't have any direct experience of this thing. We have no clue. We may have even got a very kind of tiny glimpse, which is like a drop in the whole ocean. Right? Even that can make us to be surprised. We have no direct experience of that. We hear about it, we think about it, we reflect upon it, but we have no direct experience of it. And therefore, there is a huge gap between me living in this phenomenal world and experiencing this world of names and forms and this world of change, and that which is described as Brahman. There is a huge gap, isn't it? This is what we feel. I don't know what this Brahman is. I can't even really think about it in any kind of way which makes me to understand it in a proper way, and then to actually think about the direct experience of that Brahman, it seems to be an impossible task. Now, the question is that, this gap, why is this gap there? Okay. On the one hand, it is about the nature of the ultimate reality. And related to that, on the other hand, is the nature of the individual self and the equipments of the individual self. Okay. The Brahman which is there is not available to the instruments of the body-mind intellect. It is that which is beyond the instruments of the body-mind intellect. It cannot be grasped by the body or the mind or the intellect. It is something which is beyond the realm of the body-mind intellect. It cannot be grasped by any of these instruments of the body, mind and intellect. And if we say that it cannot be grasped by any of these instruments, therefore, even if we try to think about it, then we are not going to be able to realize it, because it is beyond the realm of thought, it's beyond the realm of feeling, it's beyond the realm of any kind of sensation. Right? So if that is the case, then it is this the nature of the self being beyond the body-mind intellect. Anything which we try to grasp with the instrument of the body-mind intellect will not be sufficient enough for us to actually know what that ultimate reality is. Now, in this phenomenal kind of condition, in this kind of existence, the self seems to be very far. Now, if I tell you now, think about the Brahman, think about the ultimate reality. For us, it seems so far away. It seems like it is in a different dimension altogether, which is not accessible to me at this particular time. And when I think about, okay, when am I going to actually get there? It seems very far in terms of time and space. So the self seems very far away in terms of time and space, because what we are doing, we are trying to measure that in terms of our own concept of time and space according to the conditions of our existence in this human name and form. And therefore, if we try to do that, it is beyond our grasp. Okay. Now, because of this difference, what arises And here, Lord Krishna is saying that there are 5 types of reactions which comes about. So when the individual actually tries to think about this subtlest of the subtlest self, which is beyond the grasp of the body-mind intellect, and it cannot be conceived by any of the instruments of the body-mind intellect, it is struck with wonder. So it is struck with wonder, and this wonder emotion is of the highest intensity, like it says, and the emotion which is there is that we are struck with this kind of emotion, that what is this self? What is this self which is beyond the grasp of the body-mind intellect, and it seems to be an absolutely wondrous thing. So here then it gives us the 5 different types of reactions. One is that one sees these things but does not speak about it. Now that is now the ultimate realization. Okay? Somebody who has directly come to experience it cannot even speak about it. Why? Why cannot I speak about it? Because it cannot be formulated in any kind of words. Because as soon as we try to formulate it in any kind of words or any kind of language even, we are restricting that ultimate reality in language which cannot express itself. Okay. Language and words cannot express the infinity, the reality of that ultimate Brahman, and therefore one ceases to even speak about it. There are no words to express, because words and language themselves have limitations. Then number 2, he sees as well as speaks. Now seeing does not mean that he has seen it in that way, but it means that seeing that I am actually the way in which I am speaking about it, because the way I understand about ultimate reality, I'm speaking about it because I see it in the limitations of the intellect and the limitations of the mind. In that way, I can understand it intellectually and emotionally, and then can speak about it. And it says the third one is that where you hear and understand. To the extent that the intellect is able to understand, yes, we hear it, and we hear it many times, in all the discourses, in all the talks, in all the satsang, even when we read about it, yes, we understand, and we hear about it, and we understand, and that understanding is limited to the limitations of the intellect itself. So that's the third one. And the fourth one is that, yes, I heard about it, but I do not understand it. There will be people who will say, no, what you are talking about, actually I cannot understand it at all, right? And that is not surprising, because this is something which is such a subtle knowledge that it cannot be grasped by everybody. So there will be people who will hear it, but will not even understand what is being said. And there are some people who will be completely outside all these 4 different types of things. So they kind of go beyond and say, oh my God, this is something which I hear, I don't understand, and I can't experience this, I can't know anything about it, I can't even speak about it. Okay. Now that goes beyond all these 4 different types. So there are 5 different ways in which one can relate, and Lord Krishna is saying none of them can understand the self. So we can try to think of why is he saying none of us can understand this thing, okay? And immediately what we were saying earlier on is that understanding is related to what? When I say I understand something, okay, I understand it through what medium? I understand it through the medium of my intellect, isn't it? Understanding only comes through the medium of the intellect. So that when I say I understand, I say I hear the words, I understand the words, and I put it in a kind of meaningful way within my mind. When I reflect upon it, I can make the connection between all these things and understand the idea as a concept. So that understanding is actually taking place in the mind, in the intellect. So when he says no one can understand it, it simply means that the self is not subject to the limitations or to the understanding through the intellect. One cannot understand the self through the intellect anyway. Okay. That's why even if you say that yes, I understand, that understanding is only kind of limitations and intellectualization of the self itself. So, not only is this verse saying that the direct experience of Brahman is very rare indeed, it also saying that because we are limited to the instruments of the body, mind, intellect, these instruments are not able to actually give us any kind of deep sense of understanding about the self. And the understanding which we actually get is subject to the limitations of the instruments of the body, mind, intellect. Okay. So it doesn't mean that that this is now, oh my God, this is the end of it. Now if I say I'm not going to understand it and I'm not going to be able to do anything about it, then what is the point of all this, right? And Gurudev here is saying that this is not supposed to discourage us. It's not supposed to discourage us, but it is telling us that yes, we will be subject to the limitations of the body, mind, intellect. But if the sadhana and if these spiritual techniques are done in the right way, then there is every possibility that even with the limitations of the body, mind, intellect instruments, that we are going to be able to transcend and to experience this reality one day or the other. Okay. So it is supposed to kind of encourage us and say, okay, yes, I'm not able to kind of understand it in the limitations of my own phenomenal identity, but when I actually practice and use these instruments in the right way, then there is every possibility that I will reach that destination one day or the other. Okay? And here is telling us that through the means of Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, that if we follow this method on the path of knowledge, whereby we listen, we reflect upon it, we practice that truth in our lives, and through that practice of truth in our lives, there is a certain process which goes on in the mind and the intellect, and that purification of the internal state of our consciousness, when it comes to reaches a certain state, then we are able to transcend this body, mind, intellect instrument, and we will reach the truth. We will actually experience the truth firsthand, the direct experience of the self. So, yes, we are struck by wonder, we cannot understand it at this point, but if we follow the right method, then there is every possibility that we're going to reach that one way or the other. Right, so let's do the last verse of the current kind of series which Lord Krishna is giving us. Is that he's been telling us about addressing the first part of Arjuna's problem, which was that he's been overcome by grief, and so he's giving in this summary of the ultimate self-knowledge. Okay, so here's the last verse, which is giving as a kind of summary of the whole thing and the reason why he should not grieve. So let's chant that verse.
देहि नित्यमवध्योऽयम्
देहि नित्यमवध्योऽयम्
देहे सर्वस्य भारत
देहे सर्वस्य भारत
तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि
कस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि
न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि
न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
So this indweller of the body, and we have seen that this indweller he is talking about is that a subtle reality in each one of us is the indweller in the body of everyone is ever indestructible, O Bharata, and therefore you should not grieve for any creature. Yeah. So it kind of brings him back to the point, right? He has gone right round. He was saying that yes, we have been here before, you have been here before. There is something which persists throughout our existence and goes even beyond that, and that something, the ultimate reality, is that which is eternal, which is unchanging, which is there, which is indestructible, and therefore giving various different ways of explaining that. And now he comes back to the same point again, whereby he says the indweller is there, which is there in everyone, which is indestructible, and therefore you should not grieve. So if we try to then say, okay, what does this all mean? We say, yes, this is kind of summary of what has been saying from verse number 11 to 30, and this is the knowledge, okay, the self-knowledge in a summary. Of course, he then elaborates further on in the other chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, whereby he begins to then go into more detail about the relationship between the ultimate reality and the transactional reality, and the transactional reality and the personal reality, and how the personal reality of this phenomenal world and the transactional reality can be shaped in such a way that it opens the door for us to experience the ultimate reality. Okay. So the phenomenal world is, number one, the one world of experience, whereby we experience this phenomenal world in a certain way. We come into existence and we experience this life in this particular identity, in this particular body, mind, intellect. We experience it in a certain way, and it is subject to change. It is subject to all different kinds of laws, which are laws of manifestation, and therefore that is what we call life. And number two, in our ignorance, we take this to be the world which is reality. Okay? We say, okay, yes, these people are real, this world is real, this world of names and forms is real, and therefore, through my individuality, I come to a certain relationship with this world of names and forms. And this me and mine identity, thirdly, means that there is always a sense of incompleteness which is there. Okay? The sense of incompleteness arises because there is this sense of limitation. There's a limitation in terms of time, in terms of space, in terms of what I can do, what I cannot do. And this me and mine identity, in this incompleteness, it tries all the time, constantly and continuously, it tries to fulfill itself. And how does it try to make itself complete and say, okay, I'm feeling incomplete, but I will be complete if I have this thing in my life, or I become this in my life. Okay? And that propels each and every individual to kind of transact with the world in a certain way. There is an attachment which is developed to all different kinds of objects and things, because having such objects and people and situations in our life makes us feel that that is going to give us a sense of completeness, and that sense of completeness is going to give us happiness, and the happiness is what we are looking for. Okay? So we get into this vicious cycle of continuously trying to complete ourselves, being frustrated all the time because the completeness does not come about. Even if you say that so many desires have been fulfilled, there is always another desire which arises again. There are many different types of desires which come into existence again and again and again, and we keep on living this life in a kind of vicious cycle, whereby we keep on trying to strive trying to fulfill our desires, trying to get some results. And those results again propel us to get more and more results, and it becomes an endless task. And in the process, while we have all these expectations and attachments, we come to experience life in this kind of sorrowful way. And here Arjuna is kind of shown in an extreme kind of way, whereby the attachment has made him to be kind of dysfunctional, whereby he becomes dysfunctional because he's not even able to function in the right way, and therefore that becomes the way in which our life begins to function, and grief arises because of that. And because of this wrong perception which we have about this phenomenal world and our own self-identity, we get into all kinds of mess, all kind of grief, all kind of different kind of suffering and sorrow. Okay? And therefore the solution which is there is to understand that there is this indweller which is the ultimate reality, and that is the self which does not require any kind of completeness. It does not require any kind of fulfillment, and therefore if we go back full circle, then we find that actually there is no need to grieve. And therefore that is what Lord Krishna is bringing Arjuna right back and saying, you should not grieve, because your grief is based on this changing phenomenal world. Okay? And if it is based on this changing phenomenal world, you got the wrong knowledge, you got the wrong perception. And if you get the right knowledge, which is that there is this indweller, which is undying, which is indestructible, and therefore there is no need to grieve. Okay. So, the changeless self is the self-knowledge, and having attained that self-knowledge, then we can get rid of this grief once and for all. Okay? It gives us the ultimate solution to human existence. It gives us the ultimate solution of the human condition, which is full of grief and full of suffering. And if we then realize the truth about the self, the changeless self, then the grief also comes to an end. And this is really the summary of the self-knowledge which Lord Krishna is giving Arjuna. So this kind of in a capsule, it gives us the whole summary of the verse number from verse number 11 to 30, the basis and the foundation of self-knowledge. Okay? Now from 31 onwards, he comes back to this, addressing this question of Arjuna. Yes, you are saying that you don't know what to do, right? And you are asking me, what should I do? I'm going to address that question. So from verse number 31 to 39, he is actually briefly addressing this question to Arjuna. And again, he kind of, gives various different reasons at various different levels. Okay? And Lord Krishna, of course, the master of presentation, is making sure that he covers all the ground which Arjuna needs to understand in order for him to come out of this critical condition in which he has been put himself. Okay, so we'll continue next week then. Finish with the prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma karshit dukkha bhave, asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.